I'm Thane Kerner. I'm the CEO at a firm called Silverchair. We're one of the two global leaders in hosting and delivering scholarly literature online on behalf of publishers. Most of our publishers are societies and associations, but we also support major publishers like McGraw-Hill and Wolters Kluwer and OUP and others. In scholarly publishing, the last decade's been much more about a new business model, open access, than about other forms of technical or format innovation. Indeed, we still see a majority of full text research articles consumed via PDF, which is a format that was launched in 1993. The emphasis on making research publications freely available to all users has caused scholarly publishers to focus on reducing costs and gaining scale rather than on innovating for the benefit of readers and users. It's a complex ecosystem in scholarly publishing. We've got an odd funding mechanism in many cases. You have to deal with promotion and tenure committees, which are giant drivers of the system, citation index, and those are just a few of the curlicues that make it a little different than typical publishing. And it overwhelmingly relies on site licensing revenue models, which generally make its readers the least important individual constituent of all. So it seems likely in the long term, publications are not going to be able to be relied upon to deliver the growing financial returns historically that they have. And I think societies and associations are looking hard at what are the alternatives and innovations that could help transform this declining revenue model or flat revenue model into a thriving and reliable source of funding for the advancement of the scholarship in which we're all involved. At Silverchair, we're trying to guide our clients and make our investments along two key lines. One is diversification of information resources is really key. So most societies already create very diverse forms of content to serve a variety of purposes. Conference outputs like posters and proceedings, broadly speaking, continual professional development with training and assessment and certification, the so-called gray literature of sort of every shape and style, and then so-called soft content like news and blogs and other non-peer-reviewed or discretionary information. Many organizations produce some or all of these forms, but few have organized them systematically and oriented towards audience development. The second key axis for us is once an organization makes a systematic effort to become a media generating rather than just a journal generating operation, the opportunity is to charge into the breach of this publishing ecosystem that I described above. And the flank that the current scholarly publishing ecosystem is left exposed is the underappreciated reader. Now, societies and associations are perfectly positioned to use digital tools to reestablish that connection to the individual, currently being ignored in the rush to open science and in institutional and consortial arrangements and by the genericizing effects of scale. Societies and associations have always understood the individual. We call them members. We touch members in many venues for diverse purposes, publications, conferences, training and development, special interest groups, news, advocacy. And yet there are two substantial shortcomings in the way we see so far most societies and associations are addressing that membership. First, despite those diverse interactions that occur between an association and a member, we generally do a very poor job of identifying that member and cataloging those interactions in a comprehensive and unified way. We might know that Jane Smith subscribes to the journal, that Jane Smith attended the annual meeting, and that Jane Smith earned 14 CME units last year, but do we know which articles Jane read in the journal and which news and blogs she reads on our websites? Do we know which session she attended? Do we know the specific topics of the CME credits that she earned and how she scored and what are her strengths and weaknesses against the subject matter? Do we in some have an accurate and granular personal knowledge of Jane's specific interests and how we can best serve them? And even if we do have relatively sophisticated engagement tracking within each of those business areas, and I'm afraid many of us continue to struggle with that, do we have a centralized comprehensive data source that collects and evaluates that engagement data and makes it usable to further personalize and enhance user engagement in the future? So the second shortcoming with respect to membership is that we tend to limit our focus to members. Makes sense, but a member is a small subset in the total audience for our organization's activities. For every person sufficiently committed to pay us an annual membership fee, there are many multiples who are not quite interested enough to join, but are interested enough to engage and pay at a lesser level. So just ponder this math. If there are 10 times the number of your members who are interested in 1/10 the level of cost and service that you're currently offering members, capturing them would double your current membership revenues. Now, of course, this simplistic example aligns the specific product, service, mechanics, and pricing, but it illustrates the principle at work. You know, the observation here has always been true, but only recently has it become viable to identify and engage with these smaller but more numerous customers. The tools to harness user interaction data and to make that data actionable for marketing and sales purposes are in play. And a few of the most sophisticated associations, HIMSS is a good example, have developed effective audience intelligence solutions and use them to dramatically expand audience monetization. At our firm, we are building an efficient platform for audience engagement. Hum, which is our new subsidiary, is a new category of essential software that integrates data from all of an association or society's digital touch points to provide better and more personalized digital experiences. Societies and associations use Hum to understand their audiences across business activities and to address and monetize those audiences with personalized engagements. So our hypothesis is that by addressing the constituency that's both most ignored and most foundational to publishers, individual readers, users, and learners, we can create new growth for societies and associations.